Unlocking Paul's secret, the shocking reason he declared himself a slave at midnight. The clock struck 12, slicing through the silence like a sword. In the eerie glow of the moonlight, Paul stood in his dimly lit living room, shadows dancing around him, casting an otherworldly aura. His heart pounded, a drumbeat of desperation echoing through the stillness. The words slipped from his lips, "I am a slave," as if summoning a spell from the depths of some ancient curse. Why would he utter such a thing? A chill raced down spines before him, yet no one was there to hear him. Only the faint scratching of branches against the window bore witness to his declaration. Something was undeniably off about Paul. The village folks whispered behind closed doors, their eyes darting with suspicion every time he walked by. He had been spotted wandering near abandoned places, places that sent shivers down the bravest souls. Rumors swirled of his midnight encounters with shadows, whispers exchanged under the cover of starlit skies. There was something in his gaze, an unsettling mix of sorrow and enlightenment, like a man teetering on the edge of a great revelation. At first glance, he seemed normal, just another man in jeans and a faded t-shirt. But there was an unmistakable weight in his stance, a burden that bent his shoulders. When he smiled, it felt forced, like he was masking a pain too raw to bear. People said he changed after the accident, a car crash stolen by the night. He never spoke of it, but the loss painted deep lines of sorrow etched on his face. It was as if a part of him was still trapped somewhere, holding hands with darkness. Neighbors began to avoid eye contact as whispers grew louder. They spotted Paul sitting in the park late at night, staring at the stars, searching for answers in the vastness of the universe. Some claimed he was searching for freedom, while others thought he was slowly unraveling. A strange aura surrounded Paul, pulling people in 1 minute and pushing them away the next. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as the village prepared to go back to their routines, Paul's midnight declaration clawed its way back to the surface. He had been found at the edge of the woods, trembling and whispering to the shadows. The air grew thick with tension as they gathered, risking a collective gasp, bracing themselves against the unknown. Paul's eyes were wide, glistening with secrets he had yet to share, a bizarre energy radiating off him. But the biggest question lingered above them like a storm cloud. What did Paul know? What had he done that could peel away his identity so brutally? As the villagers exchanged worried glances, a faint rustling echoed from the depths of the forest. Every heartbeat seemed to pulse with urgency, a promise of revelation waiting to explode from the shadows. And just as the night held its breath, an owl hooted, as if signaling an ominous truth that was about to break free. The rustling from the forest grew louder, a breath of anticipation exhaling among the villagers. They leaned closer, eyes wide, hearts racing, morbid curiosity pulling them into the unknown. A frigid wind swept through, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and decay, wrapping around Paul like a shroud. He was lost in a trance, oblivious, yet somehow aware of the shadows circling him, whispering his name, beckoning him closer to the edge. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. A woman, ghostly pale and clad in tattered clothes, stepped forward, her hollow eyes locking onto Paul's. Gasps swept through the crowd. She looked like a specter from a forgotten time, her presence igniting an unsettling fusion of fear and intrigue. It was as if she had risen from the very soil of their secrets, a living testament to the buried truths that lingered just beneath the surface. "Paul," she murmured, her voice like dry leaves crunching underfoot. "You chose to forsake your freedom, but can you bear the cost?" Paul's gaze shifted to meet hers, and for a fleeting moment, a flash of recognition crossed his face. He staggered backward, his pulse racing. She was an echo from his past, her presence flooding him with memories. Fragments of laughter now turned cold. The villagers watched, frozen in time, as the tension became palpable. What had he done to be haunted by this woman? What ties still bound them together? Their breaths mingled, the air thick with questions that simmered just below the surface. "Leave him be," a voice trumpeted from the back. It was Daniel, the village skeptic, his fists clenched tight. "This is madness. He's been out here talking to phantoms. Who is she? What does she want?" The crowd stirred, uncertainty rippling through the cluster of faces, the flickering light of lanterns casting long shadows, but Paul was unmoved. He didn't flinch at the fearful murmurs. Instead, he reached out, desperate fingers brushing against the woman's arm, palpable warmth igniting against her frigid touch. In that moment, something shifted inside him, a spark of hope embedded in despair. The whispers of dread began to morph into fragments of longing as memories surged forth like a raging tide. "I remember," he breathed, words almost lost to the wind. "You guided me, showed me the path," she finished, her voice echoing through the air like a promise. "You have to face it all, Paul. You must remember the night it all changed. Or you will remain a slave to the shadows." The villagers trembled, their feet rooted to the ground, watching as Paul's expression transformed from palpable terror to fierce determination. Her words tugged at him, pulling threads of blurry recollections into focus. Visions of a car crash invaded his mind, flames licking at his skin, screams rising from his throat. He felt the weight of the guilt press down on him, the unyielding remorse anchoring him in this haunted prison of his own making. With a sudden burst of clarity, Paul looked back at the villagers, desperation mixed with his determination creating a powerful wave of sincerity. "I can't run from it anymore." His voice rang out, echoing off the trees. "I have to face the truth of what happened that night before it consumes me." Whispers escalated in volume, a mixture of fear, disbelief, and shock. The air felt electric, the tension a live wire sparking with uncertainty. The woman nodded her head, urging him silently forward, but did Paul truly grasp the extent of his journey? As he turned back to the shadowy figure, ready to unearth secrets long buried, a low, sinister growl rumbled from the depths of the forest, dark and warning. The fragile atmosphere shattered like glass, and in an instant, the leaves rustled ominously, as if the very forest was coming alive, holding its breath in anticipation. What awaited Paul in the heart of the darkness? Would he uncover the truth, or would it swallow him whole? The growl reverberated through the night, sending shivers racing down Paul's spine. The villagers gasped collectively, their instincts propelling them to back away, forming an anxious barrier between Paul and the encroaching darkness. Daniel shouted above the rising waves of murmurs, "We have to go. It's not safe." But Paul didn't move. The woman's gaze held him captive, her expression a mixture of urgency and sorrow. "You must embrace it, Paul. This is the only way to break free." "Break free?" he echoed, his voice barely above a whisper as doubt seeped into his heart. Break free from what? The tension coiled tighter around him, he felt the shadows closing in, their intentions unclear. As if sensing his uncertainty, the growl morphed into a series of snarls, low yet threatening. The energy in the air shifted, a dark presence creeping closer, wrapping its icy fingers around the remnants of his courage. "What did I do?" he murmured, fear clawing at his throat. Memories came crashing back, fragments of laughter and innocence shredded by horrors he had locked away. "Face it," the woman urged, taking a step closer. With each stride, her form flickered, as if tethered to the very fabric of night. "You have the power to set yourself free, but only if you confront the past you fear." The shadows stirred at her words. A figure emerged, a hulking mass with glowing eyes piercing through the darkness. Paul's breath hitched. It was an embodiment of his guilt. Sharp claws extended, and it stepped forward, challenging him, daring him to flee or fight. The villagers recoiled, their breath hitching in unison, wide eyes fixated on the sight. "Paul!" Daniel's voice sliced through the chaos, panic-laden. "Run! But how could he run from his own nightmares? The growling beast didn't just represent his guilt, it was his pain personified. Each razor-sharp claw mirrored the unforgiving memories that punctured his soul. He felt trapped, like a mouse ensnared by its own fears. Once again, Paul searched for the woman's eyes, desperate for solace. "What if I can't do it?" he whispered, frail and vulnerable. Her answer was twofold: her soft touch and unwavering gaze. "The truth will hurt. It may break you. But to heal, you must step into the light of your confession. Trust the shadows, they will lead you there." With trembling hands, Paul faced the beast. "You can't control me," he shouted, words bursting forth from a place of deep-rooted strength. The creature paused, its growl falling silent, as if contemplating his defiance. The air felt electric again, tense and charged, a battle of wills unfolding before the villagers, each of them caught between terror and disbelief. Suddenly, the woman whispered, "Remember the night, Paul, trust what you remember." A swirl of memories rushed back, yellow lights through a rain-soaked windshield, laughter turned to screams, the haunting sound of crumpling metal on metal. The truth clawed at him, pushing him, compelling him to walk that treacherous line. The beast lunged forward, teeth bared, but Paul didn't flinch. A fire ignited within him. He raised his arms, ready to embrace the pain, the exhilaration of release. "I embrace you," he roared, his voice shaking the trees, resonating through the thick air of the forest. The woman smiled, approval shining in her hollow eyes, just as the beast lunged. What awaited them on the other side of this confrontation? Would Paul emerge whole or be shattered by the truth he so desperately sought? As claws neared his skin, the shadows and light swirled into a storm of uncertainty. The beast's claws were a whisper away from Paul's skin. Time stood still, the forest around them caught in suspended horror, the villagers frozen as if under a spell. The air crackled, heavy with tension and the scent of damp earth. With a snarl that echoed through the depths of fear, the creature lunged. But instead of cowering, Paul held his ground, channeling the weight of a past he could no longer ignore. "No!" he bellowed, not just at the creature, but at the memories that had haunted him. "I will no longer be your prisoner." In that moment, everything shifted. The shadows around him seemed to retract as if they recognized his declaration. The woman's eyes blazed, filled with a fierce light that seemed to pierce through the darkness encasing his fears. Encouraged, Paul took a step forward, reaching out to confront the monstrous embodiment of his guilt. "Show me!" he cried, unearthing defiance that surged within him. "Show me what I've tried to forget." The beast halted, its glowing eyes narrowing. For a heartbeat, it seemed to ponder his challenge. Then it hesitated, its form flickering like a flame about to be extinguished. With a guttural growl, it morphed before him, fur melting away to reveal a young boy, lost and terrified, eyes wide with sorrow. Paul staggered back, recognition flooding his senses that it was a reflection of him. The boy bore the weight of every bad decision, every moment of selfishness. A decade ago, Paul had made a choice, a chilling, impulsive decision that had shattered lives, not just his own. The boy collapsed to the ground, hands clutching his head as if trying to block out muffled screams that only Paul could hear. Gasps rippled through the villagers. Shock and confusion painted their faces as Paul stumbled closer to the child. It's me," he whispered, realization spiraling through him, a raw truth that felt as sharp as glass. "I abandoned you, I left you to face this alone." The shadows, once ominous, began to dissipate, revealing swirling patterns of memory, fleeting images mixed with laughter and cries, the crash replaying in gruesome detail. Paul could feel the pain. The shame. The crushing weight of guilt that had forged a relentless chain around his heart. "Forgive me," he breathed, kneeling beside the trembling boy. "Please forgive me." His own heart ached for the child he had once been, lost in tragedy and regret. The child's eyes brightened with a flicker of understanding, as if grasping a thread of hope. The villagers began to murmur, a distant chorus of concern and intrigue, eyes darting between Paul and the primal figure before him. Daniel stepped closer, protective yet curious, clearly torn between wanting to pull Paul away and staying to support him. but Paul was already well beyond that point. Igniting with a newfound strength, he reached out and wrapped his arms around the boy. "I'm here now," he said, voice thick with emotion. "You're not alone anymore. I will not let you suffer." Suddenly, the beast writhing in the shadows began to dissolve, the darkness that had been consuming Paul waning as the boy accepted the embrace. With each breath they shared, the forest started to glow, an unearthly light washing away remnants of despair, but just as Paul felt the grip of his past beginning to loosen, a chilling howl echoed through the trees. A new fear unfurled at the edge of the clearing, deeper, darker, and far more menacing. "What is happening?" Daniel cried out, pushed further back by an unseen force as shadows quivered anew, darker and sharper this time. The villagers stumbled, their eyes wide with terror, as a fresh wave of dread surged through the air. Paul's heart raced. Defeating one monster was just the beginning. What fresh horrors awaited him? And as the light bent and twisted with threatening energy, he could only wonder, had he truly unlocked the door to his freedom, or merely stepped into a deeper darkness? The growl returned, more feral and chaotic, merging into a haunting whisper. "You thought you could escape what awaited Paul in this growing chaos? Would he stand his ground again, or was he destined to face yet another layer of his past?" The shadows thickened, a living mass swirling like storm clouds gathering overhead. Paul felt the ground tremble beneath him as the air grew heavy with foreboding. The tormented howl reverberated through the clearing, chilling the marrow in his bones. "Stay back!" Daniel shouted, his eyes wide and pleading, but Paul couldn't move. He was rooted to the spot, adrenaline coursing through him like wildfire, boiling his blood. "What else is there?" Paul gasped, uncertainty creeping in. He had faced so much, shattered the specter of his regret, yet now he stood at the edge of something far worse. The growl morphed again, twisting into a guttural laughter that broke the dark silence around them. "You think you've conquered your fears?" The voice taunted, layers of malice curling around each word. "You've merely scratched the surface. There is so much more to uncover." As if in response, the shadows shifted, revealing outlines of figures that stretched and crept in the dimming light. Lost souls, fragments of the past, each bearing sorrow etched deep into their faces. Paul recognized the pain written in their expressions. These were the specters of those he had failed. Friends, family, a haunting gallery of every life he had touched and ultimately abandoned. "No, this can't be," he stammered, sweat beading on his brow as memories rushed like a torrent through his mind. Screams, cries for help every moment surged back, threatening to drown him in the weight of his inaction. "I'm sorry," he shouted, the desperation clawing at his voice. "I thought I could make it right." But the figures approached, and their eyes pierced through him, filled with an unforgiving judgment. "You left us all, Paul. Locked in your own darkness, you chose to forget." The villagers watched, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow, mouths agape in horror as they witnessed Paul's breakdown, his battle against the shadows consuming him. Some stepped back, while others leaned forward, compelled by a strange mix of fear and sympathy. Paul felt an internal struggle, a tug of war between despair and a flicker of determination. The boy in his arms stirred, offering encouragement even in his vulnerability. "You're stronger than this," the boy whispered, his voice light yet steady. Drawing a shaky breath, Paul turned his flames of guilt into resolve. "I'm here," he asserted, gaze shifting from the figure's hollow expressions to the dark swirling mass before him. "I will face you. I will face everyone I've failed." At that moment, the darkness pulsated, recoiling as if stung, revealing a glimmer of light behind it. Paul realized that confronting the shadows meant embracing every part of his past, the good, the bad, and every fragment that had shaped him. He was no longer shackled by regret, yet the shadows didn't retreat far. A new threat emerged, an even larger form rising from the depths, an amalgamation of torment and despair, a monstrous figure born of every fear he thought buried. It towered over them, its presence suffocating and overwhelming, each breath carrying the scent of lost hope. "Have you the strength to confront me?" It boomed, voice echoing through the very essence of the forest. Paul felt the ground shift beneath his feet, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm, but the boy, vulnerable yet fiercely illuminated, grasped Paul's hand. "You're not alone, remember." His words ignited the flicker of hope deeper inside Paul, dread coiled tightly around Paul's chest. He had fought off one monster, but was he prepared to conquer this monstrosity? With every ounce of courage, he pulled himself up. It was not just his freedom at stake, but the souls that were tethered to his past. "I will not run. I will not hide," he roared, determination replacing doubt. "Let this end. Let me embrace my truth." The shadows writhed, threatened by the power of his resolve. But the looming figure remained, eyes burning like coals. "Then prepare, Paul. You thought this a battle of the past, but it is only the beginning." What hidden truths awaited him in this showdown with his darkest fears? Would he finally shatter the chains of his guilt, or would he be consumed by the very darkness he sought to escape? The monstrous figure loomed larger, its outline shifting like a stormy tide. The deep growls reverberated within the very core of Paul's being, flooding him with a sense of dread. The villagers stood frozen, their breaths held in an uncertain harmony, as if the air had turned to ice. "Who are you?" Paul cried, voice shaking yet fierce. "Why do you haunt me?" The figure's eyes glinted, a wicked smile stretching across its dark facade. "I am every regret you buried, every nightmare you ran from. I am the truth you refuse to acknowledge." A wave of anger surged through Paul. "I am ready to face you," he bellowed, though his insides twisted with fear. He gripped the boy's hand tighter, fueled by the warmth and faith radiating from him. In that moment, he felt that he wasn't just confronting his own demons, he was standing for all those who had suffered alongside him, those he had let down. "Face me," the figure roared, laughter booming like thunder. "You've never faced anything in your life, Paul. You've hidden behind your lies, pretending they didn't exist." "No." Paul shouted back, the fervor igniting within him. "I've faced my past. I've searched every dark corner inside of me." "Did you really?" It sneered. The shadows morphing around the figure began to take on the shape of significant moments from Paul's life: missed calls, abandoned conversations, tear-streaked faces. "What did you find?" "Just the surface. The comfort of denial." The images flashed before his eyes, each one a reminder of pain he struggled to forget: the moment he walked away from his sister's funeral, the times he said no when he should have said yes. Each memory felt like a punch, knocking the wind out of him. But something within him stirred. Those memories were not just chains, they were lessons learned, wounds that could transform into strength. He straightened his posture. "I did leave, but now I am here. I am fighting for you all." With that declaration, a rush of light poured from the boy at his side. The figure recoiled momentarily, the shadows quivering as the light brightened the clearing. It licked and danced around Paul and the boy, casting the darkness further aside. "Not so strong after all," the dark figure hissed, regaining its ferocity. "You think this glow can save you? You're still tethered to me. No more." Paul screamed, determination surging through him like a wildfire. "I am not defined by my failures. I am not your puppet." The monstrous form writhed, the shadows twisting violently as if caught in a storm. For the first time, a flicker of doubt crossed its sinister features. "You dare defy me? I am your worst fear, your deepest sorrow." "Yes, and that makes me stronger," Paul countered, feeling the surge of strength rising within him. "Each failure, each fear, I embrace them. They do not bind me, they empower me." In that moment, the air around him crackled, the essence of his truth acting as a shield against the darkness. The figure let out a howl of agonizing rage, and with every scream, the weight of Paul's past began to lift, the shadows evaporating like mist in the sunlight. The boy smiled at Paul, a slight nod of encouragement. Yet, just as victory seemed within reach, a new shadow crept from behind, darker and more formidable than before. Paul's heart dropped at the sight. Did you really think you could be free? The new figure whispered, its voice a haunting rasp. This is only the beginning. What new torment had joined the fray? Would Paul have to fight against an even graver terror? How would he rise to meet the next challenge, and what truths waited to be unlocked from the grasp of the shadows? Paul's heart raced. The new figure emerged. Its eyes were like black holes, void of humanity, pulling in the light that had fought so fiercely moments ago. Fear pooled in the pit of his stomach, threatening to drown him. Who are you? Paul managed to croak, his voice now a whisper, almost lost in the overwhelming darkness surrounding him. He could feel the villagers' eyes on him, their anticipation morphing into dread. I am your greatest failure, the figure hissed, stepping forward, its presence suffocating. Not just the memories of your past, but the shame that has shaped your very essence. You think battling your regrets makes you free? You are a slave to them. A chill snaked up Paul's spine. The truth of those words cut deeper than any blade, and he struggled to breathe. I want to let you own me. He shouted, but the confidence came out wobbly, swallowed by the monstrous echo that ensued. You are already mine, the figure simpered, its skeletal hand pointing at the patchwork of flaws in Paul's life. The missed opportunities, the pain of absence. They reside within you, chained to your spirit like anchors. Face it, Paul. You're trapped. The shadows spiraled around him, each one a memory clawing for his conscience. He could feel their icy tendrils coiling tighter, whispering lies he tried to forget. You're not good enough. No one believes in you. You will always be a disappointment. But then he felt the boy's hand again, warm and reassured, grounding him in this storm. While doubts swirled like a tempest, there was a flicker of clarity. The truth of his journey was not just hurt, it was also resilience. He had endured. He had pushed through. No. Paul shouted louder this time, igniting the warmth of his memories, the laughter, the victories, and even the lessons from losses. I am ready to embrace all of it. If my failures are part of me, then they are also my strength. The monstrous figure howled, the sound wrenching Paul's gut as it twisted in anger. You think that joy can compete with the weight of your shame? You are fooling yourself. With each defiant thought, the darkness shrank beneath the glow emanating from the boy, illuminating a path through the haze of despair. For a moment, Paul felt as if he was in charge, controlling the shadows rather than being consumed by them, but just as he began to focus on the light, the figure lunged at him, its form distorting into a swirling mass of anger. You can't hide from the truth. You're still the coward who ran. Adrenaline surged. Paul gritted his teeth, heart pounding as he recalled the hardest truth, how he turned his back on those who needed him. But instead of crumbling under the weight, he let the guilt transform into fuel. You're wrong. Paul shouted. I faced my cowardice when I came back here. I am not my past, I am my choice to fight. The shadow quivered as the words shot like arrows through the dark. The figure staggered backward, doubt flickering in its eyes, just as the boy beside Paul glowed brighter, radiating a warmth that dispelled the chilling presence, but then, from the depths of the darkness, a shrill laugh echoed. Such foolish bravery, Paul. This struggle is but an echo, you have only brushed the surface of your own treachery. Paul's pulse quickened, panic threatening to rise again, as the new figure melded further into the shadows. What awaited him beneath this surface of deceptive strength? Was there a truth lurking in the depth that he still needed to confront? The air thickened, a taut wire holding back an unthinkable revelation. The boy squeezed Paul's hand tighter, a silent promise that they would face this together. What if the biggest battle is yet to come? Paul murmured, a knot tightening in his stomach. He was not finished yet, he could feel that deep within his core. The real confrontation had only just begun. The laughter faded into a low, sinister chuckle that echoed off the walls of his mind. Shadows twisted and danced around them, morphing into grotesque shapes that threatened to swallow Paul whole. He could see them, faces of the people he had failed, the memories he had buried. They reached for him, hungry for acknowledgement. Look at them, Paul. They know you, the figure hissed, its voice a serpent's whisper. They've been waiting for you to remember. Can you even stand that weight? I can. Paul shot back, desperation tightening his throat. The boy's hand felt like a lifeline. It pulsed with warmth, contrasting the cold dread creeping up Paul's spine. They're part of me, yes, but they don't define me. The laughter crescendoed. You think this fleeting light can protect you? It's fading, look. With a wave of its skeletal hand, the surrounding light dimmed, plunging him into a deeper darkness. The boy beside him gasped, and Paul's heart sank. In that moment, a memory surfaced, sharp as glass, the day he chose to walk away. The faces of his loved ones appeared, not as shadows, but vibrant and real. Each one carried the weight of his decisions, the broken promises, the abandoned dreams. They stood now before him, their eyes piercing through the dark, demanding his attention. I'm sorry. He shouted, the words bursting out like a dam breaking. I never meant to hurt you. I was scared. Scared? Sneered the figure, its eyes flickering with a mix of amusement and rage. You were terrified of the truth. Terrified of what it meant to truly face your failures. You ran, Paul. Running doesn't erase the past. Clinging to the warmth of the boy's hand, Paul steadied himself. But running brought me back. I can't change what has been done, but I can choose how I move forward. The shadows roiled in response, but something shifted. The figure halted, uncertainty creeping into its form. Do you think this cries for redemption make you strong? It's a mask. It's nothing but a weak defense. I don't need a mask, Paul replied, his voice rising over the cacophony of doubt. I need to face it all. The fear, the pain, I won't let it chain me any longer. As if reacting to his defiance, the pulse of light grew brighter, consuming the darkness. The boy smiled, his eyes radiant with hope. Together, they surged forward. The figure screeched, its form twisting violently as the light overwhelmed it. You think this is the end? It's just the beginning. You will regret this choice. And in one blinding moment, the shadows shattered, crumbling into grains of despair that danced away in the wind. An uncanny silence filled the space around them, leaving Paul breathless, heart pounding in the aftermath of the storm, but just as he thought he'd won, a new wave of darkness fell, flowing in like an unrelenting tide. It rolled over the remnants of the defeated figure, swirling into something unrecognizable, a deeper darkness that felt ancient and palpable. What is this? Paul whispered, fear creeping back into the edges of his courage. Another layer, the boy murmured, his grip still firm but trembling. This is the truth beneath the truth. Are you ready to face it? In that moment, dread twisted into resolve. They had already lost so much to the whispers of darkness, there was no turning back now. The real question is, Paul thought, fear coiling in his stomach, how much can we bear? And as the darkness coiled around them, tightening its grip, he felt it, the weight of hidden secrets and buried pain rising to meet him, ready for confrontation. What lay hidden beneath the surface? Would uncovering the truth free him, or was it the final nail in his coffin? The air grew thick with an oppressive weight, pressing down on Paul and the boy whose light had become their anchor. Shadows slithered closer, their whispers morphing into a chorus of taunts that scraped against Paul's sanity. Each word cut deep, threatening to unravel him completely. Do you hear them? The figure crooned from the depths of the swirling black. They want you to lose yourself, to drown in the depths of your own failure. You can't escape who you are. You're a failure, Paul. Nothing more than a coward hiding behind your excuses. No. Paul shouted, his voice echoing against the endless dark. I want to let you twist my thoughts. I want to fall for your lies. But as the darkness clawed closer, memories flooded his mind, whispers of old mistakes, the look on his father's face during their last fight, the tears in his mother's eyes as she begged him to stay. He could still feel the betrayal, the weight of every neglected promise, and regrettable decision. Stop. He pleaded, clutching the boy's hand tighter, grounding himself in that heartbeat. These are just memories. They don't define my future. With a roar, the darkness surged, a wave of despair washing over him. Paul staggered back, instinctively shielding himself, as the shadows morphed into figures, his family, his friends, all of them closing in, their expressions twisted in anger and pain. You left us. Their voices echoed in unison. You turned your back when we needed you most. No. Paul cried, shaking his head, panic rising like bile in his throat. I was scared. I didn't know how to be there for you. I thought I was protecting you. Protection? The figure cackled, its form looming larger, enveloped in a shroud of malevolence. What a pitiful excuse. You were protecting yourself, running from the reality of your choices. You think claiming redemption will save you? Each heartbeat pounded loudly in his ears, and with it came the truth, a stark awakening that clawed at his insides. The shadows didn't just embody his past, they represented the darkness within him, the truth he had buried so deeply. The fear of confrontation, of shame, had chained him longer than he realized. Face it. The boy urged, his voice piercing through the haze of despair. You have to confront them. Only by facing the truth can you free yourself. With every ounce of will he had left, Paul stood tall, his voice steadying. I can't change the past, but I can forgive myself. I will face this burden. It's not who I am anymore. Suddenly, the darkness recoiled, a whirlpool of shadows retreating as if pushed back by an invisible force. Paul felt the boy's warmth grow stronger. The tension shifted, morphing into something else, a flicker of hope amidst the encroaching void, but then, a chilling laugh rang out, cold and hollow. You think you can simply walk away? The darkness remembers, Paul. It always remembers. Panic gripped Paul's heart. What does that mean? He stammered, dread pooling in his gut. The figure began to dissolve into the shadows, its final words lingering like smoke in the air. You may flee, but the truth of your choices will find you. When midnight strikes, you'll remember, and then you will truly be free. Just as the last of the figure faded, a violent tremor swept through the space. The ground beneath them shifted, the darkness swirling dangerously, threatening to swallow them whole once more. Stay with me, Paul urged, fear setting in once again. We can do this together. But what will we find below? The boy countered, glancing toward the deepening shadows. Will it bring us peace, or will it drag us further into the abyss? Paul met his gaze, the weight of uncertainty heavy in the air. The darkness pulsed around them, a ravenous entity eager for the confrontation. Paul swallowed hard. The answers waited just beyond the veil, but did he dare to seek them out? What other secrets lay hidden in this terrifying void, ready to rise at the stroke of midnight? The shadows twisted like ghosts, each one carrying remnants of Paul's past. Memories rushed back in haunting clarity, clawing at the very essence of his being. He could see the faces of everyone he'd hurt, hear their voices echoing through the dark. Do you remember us? They whispered, their tones laced with sorrow and regret. You tried to forget, but we've never let you go. Paul stood frozen, his heart hammering in his chest like a drum echoing through a desolate canyon. The dark figure reformed, looming larger than ever, its features shifting, embodying every fear, every regret that had imprisoned him for so long. Face the sins of your past, Paul. It demanded, the voice a low growl reverberating through him. I can't. He gasped, each breath heavy with the weight of memories he had long buried. But the boy beside him squeezed his hand tighter, grounding him amidst the tempest. You can. The boy insisted, his voice steady. It's time to let go of the fear. Embrace your past, and it will no longer haunt you. The word struck a chord deep within Paul. Had he lived in fear for so long, letting shadows consume him? He took a shaky step forward, a flicker of defiance igniting in his chest. I'm done running. I won't hide from you anymore, he shouted. As if struck, the shadows recoiled, momentarily shocked by his conviction. "Foolish boy. Do you really believe it can end this way?" The dark figure mocked, shifting and swirling around him like a tempest. Paul's heart raced, but he felt the light radiating from the boy beside him growing brighter. "You are not your failures," the boy urged. "You are the choices you make now." With a clarion call echoing through the dense shadows, Paul commanded, "I acknowledge my regrets. They shaped me, yes, but they don't control me." The swirling darkness seemed to shudder, pulling away as light broke through. Memories collided and collapsed, turning into visions of hope instead of despair. He saw his mother's smile, laughter shared with friends, moments of genuine connection. They flickered and pulsed, saturating the air with warmth, moments of love that had always existed amidst the pain. "Stop. You can't remember this." The figure shrieked, its form wavering, shadowy fingers reaching toward Paul, trying to drag him back into despair. "I can," he roared, his voice booming through the abyss, striking the very core of the darkness. With each word, he felt a surge of strength blossom from within. The boy's light blinked fiercely, wrapping around Paul, illuminating the space and burning through the encroaching shadows. "Together!" the boy cried, raising his hands in solidarity, gathering every ounce of courage. Paul let go of the guilt, the fear, the pain. "I embrace my past," he shouted, feeling the buried weight lift as he stepped fully into the light. "I forgive myself." The darkness roared back in anguish, twisting in a violent cyclone of shadows as if recoiling from the truth. "You will regret this moment. You'll never escape the chains of your own making. Watch me," Paul shouted, embracing the boy's radiant essence, allowing it to guide him forward into the light. The chase of shadow and light erupted into a brilliant display of colors as the shadows began to disintegrate, fragmenting into shimmering wisps that danced away into nothingness. With one final howl of rage, the darkness imploded, leaving behind an emptiness filled with the promise of freedom. As the air cleared, the forest around them transformed, vibrant colors emerging from the darkness. The trees stood tall, the stars began to blink brighter, and the stillness resonated with peace. Paul felt the boy's warmth slip away gently, knowing his offer of support had anchored him through. "Thank you," Paul whispered, glancing around at the beauty surrounding him. He was free. No longer bound by the chains of his past, he could walk forward with strength, finally at peace with himself. The villagers marveled as the clearing brightened, their expressions shifting from horror to awe. Chatter erupted, ripples of understanding spreading through the crowd. The whispers of fear had been replaced by the sounds of hope and renewed connections forming. Paul turned to face them, a wave of relief flooding over him. He saw curiosity, sympathy, and acceptance reflected in their eyes. "I've faced my shadows and embraced my truth. I urge you to do the same. Don't be a prisoner of your past." Daniel stepped forward, a mixture of respect and admiration in his gaze. "You're not alone anymore, Paul. Let us face our truths together." As the villagers rallied around him, the night filled with voices, laughter, connection, and healing. The darkness had transformed into a new beginning, and for the first time, Paul felt genuinely free. And that was the moment he knew he was ready to step into the dawn, ready to live fully, embracing every truth, light and dark, as part of his journey. But before the final curtain drew, his heart raced as he turned back to the camera, eyes glinting with sincerity. "Hey! You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss out on the next incredible stories we'll explore together. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the finale. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see how to confront their own shadows. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share." With one last infectious smile, Paul knew that real freedom wasn't just facing the darkness. It was shining light on hope.